Hey FlossTube, it's Annette from Annette's Acre. Right here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's a lovely sunny day, as usual. Phoenix has finally hit fall. We're under 80 degrees, which is awesome. It's Sunday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day to my U.S. friends, and happy Remembrance Day to my Canadian friends, and just happy Sunday to everybody else, or whatever day you're watching this. So it's been a minute. Things have been kind of crazy and busy. I was reminded this week that I had mentioned in my last video that I didn't have any more work travel to do. Yeah, that didn't hold up. The last 2 weeks I've actually traveled to Little Rock, Arkansas for a new client, and then this coming week I have to be in Vegas for a couple days for yet another client. So, and I have one more trip next month. So hopefully that's it for this year. But I am managing now multiple clients, multiple projects, so you just never know from one week to the next where you need to be. But that being said, September I did have some fun travel, and that was to an event called Readers on the River at the end of September. It's all books and authors, so we'll talk about that at the very end. So in case you're not interested, you won't miss any of the stitching related discussions. We'll talk about that at the end. It was great fun. I went with my mom and one of my best friends, Cheryl, who lives in Nashville. Lots to talk about there. In October, it was kind of a mixed month. I did do Dark October stitching, and that is the bulk of the whips that I'm going to show you today. But we also lost one of our dogs in October. Greta was 14. She turned 14 earlier in the month. And it went very quickly. She was not having a good day on a Thursday, and then by Friday morning she was gone. So it was very quick. She did not linger. She did not, it wasn't a long drawn out anything. But now we're down to 3, Duchess, Max, and Cooper. So, such is the life of a dog owner. November, I had some other social fun. We saw a live production of Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is great fun. If you have the opportunity to see the live show and you are a fan of the TV show, it's very similar and it is good. It's fun to do. And then I was at a live performance of a podcast that I listened to called Small Town Murder, which is done by 2 comedians that are here from Phoenix, and they did a live show here in Phoenix. Granted, it's not for the easily offended. That being said, it is kind of great fun, so it's good stuff. So, given that I had a couple months of stitching, I've got some finishes. So, I'm going to show you the finishes first, in no particular order, and then we'll get into the rest of the whips that I've had over the last couple months. So, this is actually, so for Dark October, I identified 13 projects. 9 of them were current whips out of my stash, and I pulled 4 new starts to make 13, all in the Halloween, Dark October kind of thing. This was one of my new starts. I started it was actually number 13. I used the Tiny Decisions app to select my whips through the month, and this was one of the new starts. So this is Mill Hill Calavera Naranja. And here he is finished. I actually finished him on Halloween, sitting on the plane, on the tarmac. That was my first trip to Little Rock. Their flight was delayed because of a storm in Little Rock, so I actually finished him while we were sitting waiting to take off. So here he is. And now he just needs to be backed and magneted and put up on the refrigerator. Once I had him finished, and I had a second trip to Little Rock last week, I pulled out another small Mill Hill Nutcracker. And I finished all the stitching and beading on him. There is still some assembly required, so I'll do that before Christmas. But Mill Hill, so that's another finish. Those are the small ones. Another one of my Dark October whips was the Hands-On Design Squareology Nevermore, and I finished it. I converted it all to color and cotton. This is color and cotton fabric, as well as flosses. So everything's done. I originally thought it would make a good biscornu, but it would mean that the jars would be upside down on the corners, and that just doesn't seem right. So it will not be a biscornu. I may take it with me to the framers next weekend. Another item that I finished was a round robin piece for a very good friend of mine. She had done this in 2006. So here's the whole round robin. It was from the TW round. It was a TW themed round robin, and as you can see, or you may or may not know, these are all borders from TW Designs. The first person that had stitched on her round robin, the border that she had stitched just didn't fit with the rest of them, and she wasn't happy with it, and she didn't want to ask that person to restitch. So she ripped it out, and I did, and I added in this one instead. So, which is very TW, and it goes much better with the rest of the piece. So I did that, and that'll be off to the framers next weekend when I take my own stuff. The other piece I finished, and I was really close in the last video, was, and none of these have been pressed because I don't usually do that until the day before I take them in. I finished Prickly But Cute. I finished my Prickly But Cute, my cacti. The last cacti came out in October, and I finished it up. So here it is. We're good, right? Okay. So all the cacti are in DMC. The border is Classic Colorworks Muddy Puddle and Red Licorice. So great stitch along. I love this. It was so much fun. We'll see what she does for next year. Right now I'm trying not to stay away from stitch alongs next year, but you know how it is. The last piece that I have as a finish, I just finished last night, and it's a big finish. It's a really big finish. I actually worked on this piece for over half of September. This was my September whip. I didn't touch it in October. Then I picked it up again last weekend and I finished it. Let Freedom Ring. Let's see, here we go. Let Freedom Ring is complete. This is on 32 count cream Jobelin using all the called for threads. A couple, well, one very minor change. I changed the time on the clock. So I changed the clock time to be about 9:30. So fold it up a little bit. It's not about 9:30. That's the time that I finished it last night. And then if you notice, the windows are dark. The chart calls for white mullions, so window panes too, and I didn't like the look of it for the white because I just didn't like the look of it, so I left them out. So I left them as dark windows, which they would be in the, you know, in the dark, right, at night. So I left them out, but it's done. I'm very glad it's done. It took me a total of 95 stitching days, and I started it on July 4th of last year and finished it last night. So it was a big project. That's the biggest project that I finished in quite a while. But it'll go now to the framer next weekend, and up on the wall I already know where to hang it, where we're going to hang it. So maybe by Thanksgiving, at least by the end of the year, it'll be up. So those are finishes. Okay, the whips, the rest of the Dark 13 whips. Well, the rest of the whips. So the first one, was not Dark 13. I have a pile over here, I want to make sure. The first one was not Dark 13, it's just my, my Frosted Pumpkin Into the Jungle. So here we are now. Only one spot left. So you saw September in the last update, the bats, and then October were the macaws, November were the tapers, and then this is a square. It's a cat of some sort. We know that. Thinking probably a jaguar. The cat goes here, and then I just have the border, the bottom border left to finish. So I'll pull this out at the end of this month and try to get the border finished before the last piece comes out. and then it'll be done. Like I said, I'm at this point I'm not planning to do the 2019. We'll see, but it's gonna have to be something really, really tempting in order to get me to do it. I can't even think of a theme that would actually fall into that category. So we'll see. So that's the only non-Dark 13 whip that I still have. Nut Freedom Ring is finished. It's no longer a whip. Alright. These, again, no particular order. Just as I've got them piled up. So the first one is Hinzite's Dark Shadows. And it's really, really close. Really, really close. All I've got to do is finish the owl. This is on a 28 count something linen, cashel linen of some description that came from my stash many years ago. Like I said, all I've left is to finish up the owl, which I'm hoping to do today. When I worked on it in October, I finished the bird and the letters, and all I have left is the owl. So that's hopefully going to be finished today. Next one that I'll probably pick up after Dark Shadows is complete, because again, I made great progress as part of Dark 13 or Dark October, and that is Mill Hill's Haunted Laboratory. So here's where it is now. And this was just a couple days. Before, I only kind of had the door and pretty much just the door and the windows, the lower windows. So I'll probably pick this up after I finished Dark Shadows and try to get it finished up as well. These are both pre-2018 whips. The Haunted Laboratory was from Stitch Mania. Last year, I think. Okay. So again, in no particular order. Okay, so this one is not that. Sorry. This is the Dracula book cover from Darn Good Crafts. A couple hours. It's on 36 count Aztec Red from Weeks Dye Works. Here it is. So a lot more of the tower and this was done. I had a lot of this, but this is all new. It goes very quickly. It's only one color right now. I'll add more in eventually, the gold and the white. So I already have the frame for it. The other one, I got time. As soon as I find the cover picture. Where'd it go? Plague Doctor. Seemed appropriate. I'm doing the only the all black version. So here's where we're at now. I filled in most of the center, so he didn't really have a beak. You couldn't identify the beak, so now you can. So here he is. So again, all one color. Easy to work on. So those two got Dark October time. This one, this is Death by Cross Stitch. Chart. I'm doing this on 40 count. Oh, Plague Doctor was on a Silk Weaver solo. So. This is on a 40 count white linen using a hank of Silks for You floss. So I added a lot of this area. I know I added the birds and the bunny. So, coming along. I see other people working on this, and it seems like they're going just so much faster. Of course, it would help if I worked on it a little more than I did. But I also know that this bottom left page is fairly dense stitching. So I'm really trying to get up into that alphabet because I'm figuring I can knock that out pretty quickly. Next is what was a new start this year. Thine is the Trick and the Treat from Prairie Moon. I'm doing this in my own colors. It's a combination of Silks for You and Dinky Dyes. I added the purple motif. I got the purple motif started with the witch. So I could add some purple in and some gold. So this is on 40 count Regency from Picture This Plus. Next is one of the new starts that I planned. I mean, it took me all of 10 minutes to pull 4 kitted new starts out of my stash. I didn't actually start them all. We'll get to that in a minute. But I did. But this one and the Calavera is what I did start. And this is the hands-on design put on the hat. I'm doing the drum. So I started the drum. Again, this is just a couple days, so I will probably pull it back out to finish this month. So I got a good chunk of the corner there done. So I'll end up doing both of the pieces, the drum and the flapjack. So that got started. This was a start in September. I'm pretty sure it was September. Blackbird Designs, Away We Ride. Using all the called for floss, but I'm doing it on Oaken by Picture This Plus. So here we go. That's where we're at. I actually really like the border because it's 2 colors. They're not very different colors, but they're just enough that you can see kind of a hint of change in the colors as it goes around. So this one, while it would be nice to finish it this year, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. So that was the end. Oh no, one more Dark October. This is another existing whip. And I was very happy to pull this one out. This is Sleepy Hollow. It's on Picture This Plus Haunted. Using most of the called for. I did sub out the silk for the moon. I'm using Gloriana instead of the called for water lilies. I don't remember why. I just did it. I'm also changing out the silver cord for a silver braid. So here's where we're at. So I have a good horse butt now. Before I had kind of horse leg and that was it. So now we have horse butt and some grass. So this was just a couple days work, and I probably had only done a day's work before that. So it went surprisingly fast. So I could see this coming back out quite often in next year until it gets done. I touched a lot of whips during October, and it's kind of made me think about how to kind of continue that in 2019. So I have some ideas. Now, so that was all of my existing whips, right? But I still had 4 to get to 13, and I pulled out 4, actually pulled out 6 kitted projects that would have been worked. And how I set up my decision wheel is I put the 9 whips on, and then I put 1 slot for a new start, and I figured that new start would come up as I'm going through the month. As I worked on each whip, I removed it from the wheel, so I was no opportunity to double dip on existing whips. Well, the new start option didn't show up at all until, I mean, it was the last option. It never came up. So I was then left with starting 4 projects in a row. I knew I wanted to start the Calavera on the Monday before Thanksgiving, because I was traveling and it would be something that I could easily finish in just a couple, 3 days. So instead of starting the other project, or 2 of the other projects, what I did was I went diving deep into my stash, into the dark corners, and found pieces that I had not worked on in probably at least 2 years, if not longer. So the first one I pulled out was Teresa Wentzler's Noah's Ark. Now, this whip, I started this before I even moved to this house, which was well over 10 years ago, and it's still on bobbins. My floss is still on bobbins, and I've been doing floss tags for many years. So, it's on 25 count Lugana because of the amount of over 1. Back then, that was the only way I could think about doing that much over 1. And here's where I'm at right now. I have over half of the animals done. In the 2.5 days or so that I worked on this, I added these 3 animals. So I did the rabbit stitched and backstitch, the rhino stitch and backstitch, and then I stitched the ostriches. And they went surprisingly quick. Now, could that be because I'm, a 10-year more mature stitcher than since I started? I'm sure that's a contributing factor. And I'm much more comfortable with over 1 stitching now. Probably. Noah's Ark is unique in that there are no blends because of the amount of over 1. There are no blends in this project, which is unusual for Teresa Wentzler. But yeah, like I said, I started this many years ago. So it was very nice to pull it out, and like I said, I got a lot done in a very short amount of time. So that was one whip that saw the light of day. Oh. Sorry, dropping stuff. And then the other whip that saw the light of day that I had not seen is Chatelaine Greek Mandala, and I'll put a picture of it right here. And here it is. This is the right way up. So here's where I'm at now. Beautiful, beautiful colors. So essentially what I did, and I think this one got 3 days, I filled in all of the X's around the border. Where you see holes in the border are for specialty stitches now. I filled in all the specialty stitches inside though, with the exception of these. I have to finish these metallic eyelets. So there's Jessica's, there's Ray stitches, there's Rhodes, there's eyelets, and I don't pull my eyelets super tight. I don't like seeing a hole in the middle of the fabric, just so you know. So you can see these are eyelets down here, but there's not like big holes in the middle of them. I just don't care for that. But I finished, there were, like I said, these were all X's that needed to be finished in the overdies, and then I finished quite a few of the specialty stitches in the center. So I love working on this, and this is just on a 32 count white linen, antique white linen, using all the call fors. I totally see this coming out quite a bit next year. Totally. So that's it. So those are all the whips from the last 2 months. Far more than usual. But what it did do, it's got me thinking about 2019. Now, I know that there's kind of stuff out there about folks that are saying, oh, no new starts for 6 months. And I thought about that. I really did. Lord knows I have plenty of whips to work on. But you know what? No. I mean, there's so many rules and limits and things in life, and I just don't want to put them, I just want to stitch what I want to stitch and start what I want to start. So I may be more consistent about participating in high tea, which is the last start on the last Sunday of the month with Caroline from Off the Grid Needle Arts. I may start 10 projects on New Year's Day. I know of at least 2 I want to start that day. So we'll see. One thing I do want to do next year, though, is to touch all of my whips to determine if they need to stay as whips. So the end of this year, I'll do another whip parade. We'll go through all these whips. Now, I've touched quite a few of them this year, which is great. But what my goal will be is to sort them into 3 piles. Those that I'm willing to put in timeout and may or may not ever work on again. Those that I definitely want to work on again at some point, but maybe not immediately. And then the ones that I kind of really want to finish in 2019. So we'll go through that and do that kind of sorting together at the end of the year. In my travels, I did pick up a little bit of stash. Before this is all kind of jumbled, but that's okay. When we lost Greta, when we lost Nero a couple years ago, I stitched a piece for him, and so I obviously need to do the same thing for Miss Greta. So I ran to Attic and I picked up doggy string. I'll change a couple of the colors to be more in line with her, but I'll stitch that for her and put her name and dates on it. When we were in Louisville, we went to a lovely shop called The Finishing Touch, and I found it's a small shop. It used to be a home in a neighborhood, but oh my gosh, they had tremendous fabric, including bins of small sizes and offcuts of all different kinds of fabrics. So I spent a lot of time digging through that, but I also picked up a couple other things. So this is Cherished Stitches Halloween Chronicles. That was fun. That's a kit. Picked up something else too. Hallows Eve at Raven's Hollow from Brenda Gervais. Obviously, I didn't have enough Halloween whips this year, so I need to get more started so I have more for next year. And in the fabric bins, I found some pearled barley, 36 count pearled barley. I found a piece of Legacy, Picture This Plus Legacy, which I really like. And then Cheryl and I basically bought them out of this vintage Stormy Night Witchelt. She bought hers for Poison Garden, and I just bought a piece for me. So those were very nice. When I was in Little Rock this past week, I had the opportunity to go to Shepherd's Needle, and I met the absolutely lovely Marlene from Stitchin' by the Lake. I shopped a little bit. I got a couple things at Shepherd's Needle, and then we went and had dinner. We spent a few hours together, but it just went like that. I mean, we were just talking nonstop, and she's an absolutely wonderful lady. I was kind of dreading going back to Little Rock in the middle of December, and now I'm very excited because I know I get to see her again and spend some time with her just stitching and chatting. She gifted me with this lovely sweet pillow that she had made. This is the stitch from the StitchCon logo, and beautifully finished. And then also some finishing supplies for Christmassy kind of things. I reached out to her before I went and wasn't sure because I knew she had been doing a lot of traveling for various retreats, but I'm so very, very glad that it all worked out and I got to spend some time with her, and I look forward to doing that again. At Shepherd's Needle, I bought a couple charts, Brick House Sampler from Brenda Gervais and Crone on the Hill from Plum Street Sampler, and a few skeins of floss, This past week, Olivia B, and her, a couple of the other Bay Area stitchers, Maddie, and Michelle, were in town for an event at the Attic for Blackbird Designs, and I went down on Friday. I snuck away from work for a little while and went down on Friday so that I could visit with them and do a little shopping with them and some enabling as well. And I picked up a few things, goat load, so that I can participate in Emily's sale next year. I also got I got these two at Shepherd's Needle, I think. Gobble Gob. This one I know I got at Shepherd's Needle. And this one too. Jardin Privé, ABCs of Halloween. Marlene bought it too. There were models there, so that was why we got those. And then the Drawn Thread, Bats and the Belfry. So it must have been the other two charts that I got at Shepherd's Needle. I'm sorry, it's all sort of... No, Crone on the Hill I got at Attic. That got at Attic, and Brick House Sampler I got at Attic, which is obvious because there's a big old Attic sticker on the top. Yeah. It's Sunday, I've been traveling a lot. So that's that. Those are finishes, whips, and stash. So that's the end of the stitching content. And now I'm just wanting to talk just for a couple minutes about my Readers on the River trip. So if you're only here for the stitching and you don't care about books, see ya. See you next month, where we'll do either a whip update and then a whip raid, or we'll just run it all together at the end of the month. We'll see how it goes. So, the Readers on the River event was held in Louisville. The primary author and the reason that I went was for J.R. Ward. J.R. Ward writes the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. She lives in the Cincinnati, Louisville area, and I think she lives in Louisville. She does not do events outside of that particular area of the country, or very, 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 very rarely. I think she's doing a New Orleans event in the spring. She just doesn't travel. She's not comfortable traveling, so she stays home. So the event was Friday and Saturday. Mom and I flew to Nashville on Thursday, had dinner with my friend Cheryl, her husband, and another friend that lives in town, and then Friday morning we drove up to Louisville. The event didn't start until 6 o'clock. We got there earlier in the afternoon, so we went and found the finishing touch, had lunch, and then went back for the evening activities. And then all day, pretty much Saturday morning, were a couple of panels, and all Saturday afternoon were signings. There were 19 authors at the event. Signings started approximately 1:30. It was after a luncheon for all of the attendees. There were about 500 attendees. And the signing ended at 11 o'clock at night, and that was J.R. Ward, and I was the last person. I was the last attendee in her line. They'd done wristbands for several of the more popular authors, and so they would call the bands by grouping so that people were not standing in line for hours and hours and hours. Yeah, I was the last person in line, which was interesting. I mean, that was, but it was 11 o'clock at night. So, yeah. So just kind of as an idea of the kind of stuff that we got. We got tons of stuff. I mean, I brought a couple books with me to be signed, but then you could buy books there, and then they gave us a number of books in our bags. So we got, these are the bags that we got. Readers on the River, nice canvas bags. Badges, Readers on the River, attendee. I had 2 authors sign my badge. The first was Christopher Rice, who's the son of Anne Rice. Lovely gentleman. And then I had J.R. Ward sign as well. So she signed my badge. The 2 authors besides J.R. Ward that I was there to see were Gina Showalter. So I had a couple of books signed from her. And then Larissa Eon I had. And then finally this Consumed was a book that we received copies of this book. It came out the Tuesday after the event. I actually finished reading it pretty much on the plane ride home. So it was quite good. It's not paranormal, it's firefighters. So, in fact, many of the authors are not paranormally authors. It runs the range. They're primarily romance, but it runs the gamut of different types. Like I said, 19 authors. We got a number of books in our bag. I had several books signed by authors that I was not familiar with, and then, but I did not have them personalized, and I'll take them to a local used bookstore, so folks can, get a surprise when they buy a certain book, and it happens to be a signed book. So that's kind of my plan with that. But it was good. Like I said, 500 people. They are doing it again next year. Tickets went on sale this week. They sold out probably in about 2 minutes. However, that was the same thing last year. I was lucky enough to get a ticket when they originally went on sale. Cheryl had to wait for the resale thread, which they were starting much, much earlier for next year. And she was able to get a ticket. And there were probably a good third of the tickets that changed hands before the event. So if you're interested, I will put a link to the website below that's got the list of all the authors. And there's a Facebook group, and they handle the, people will offer their tickets for sale because, things happen, life happens, and all of a sudden you can't go. And there were even tickets that were available the week of the event when it was too late to transfer tickets. So if you're interested, get into the Facebook group. They do prizes and drawings all throughout the year. And you just never know when the opportunity to have a ticket will come up. So with that, I'm going to call it done. It's been a long one, longer than usual. And I won't be gone so long, I hope. Who knows? Who knows? I'll be back. I can say with confidence, I'll be back. I'm just not going to say when. So enjoy. Have a wonderful day whenever you watch this. Enjoy your stitching. Enjoy your reading. Enjoy all the things. Have a good day. Bye.